Hi, and welcome to Recovery His Way on the campus of His Way in Huntsville, Alabama. I'm Stuart Whiting, joined once again by our director, Tom Reynolds. Tom, happy holidays.
Well, happy holidays to you. This is a kind of a special time of year. Christmas, for me, I don't know about for you, but for Christmas, for me, has always been a special time of the year. I remember growing up as a kid, just how exciting that time of year was, looking forward to Santa Claus and just the music. And I've always just loved the Christmas spirit. And, whether as a kid or even as an adult, I always love making that experience for my kids too, and just really getting into it. I mean, in fact, most years, so this year's been unique, but most years, usually around Thanksgiving, I always turn my radio to the all Christmas channel all the time and hear all the Christmas carols and all the songs and reflect on those and reflect on the message of Christmas regarding Christ's birth and him coming into the world. And so it's just always been a great time for family. And I have so many great memories with my parents and brother and sister and my kids and everything, the food, the smells, the music, just everything. Even church. I didn't go to church much as a kid, but I always remember we always had a Christmas Eve candlelight service. And that was like the highlight of religion in my experience as a child, and turn out the lights and lighting the candle and singing Silent Night, is just vivid memories and moving, experience even as a kid. So I just love this time of year, and I don't know what it was like for you growing up, but it was always been a great time for me.
Yeah, for sure. I imagine if you asked most people, certainly here in America, what's a fond memory from your childhood, a lot of them would be attached to Christmas. And, that anticipation. I had two older brothers, and, the three of us, being able to go down the hallway, but not turn around the hall to be able to see into the living room area when Santa had come on that Christmas morning. And just that you can almost feel the emotion even right now welling up of that anticipation and excitement. And I can remember some of the special gifts, the ones that I remember this, it was the $6 Million Man action figure.
Yeah, Lee Majors.
And, I don't know, maybe yay high or so. And, but it had a little viewport behind his head where you could see through his bionic eye, and he could roll up his skin and see his, fake electronics and whatnot. And yeah, absolutely. Starting from this Thanksgiving time, this whole month long kind of season and getting together family. I didn't grow up around extended family. And so Christmas was one of those times a year we would drive 5 or 6 hours to one side of the family and be with him, or we'd be hosting our, cousins from Indiana or whatever when we didn't really get to see them much. So it is interesting that we don't have other times of the year like that where, we have other holidays, of course, but this real family gathering is very much a December or Thanksgiving in December kind of thing, and tons of memories about it.
Right. I mean, I remember for a while I lived in New Jersey for a number of years, and I remember one year vividly going and cutting a Christmas tree down with the snow coming down. We were up to snow in our knees, picking out a Christmas tree, shaking the snow off it. It was such a cool experience. And for me, growing up as a kid, always to me, the kickoff of Christmas was always Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, followed by The Grinch Who Stole Christmas and Frosty the Snowman, that little triumvirate of events, and of course the Peanut Charlie Brown Christmas.
With the greatest Christmas tree of all time.
That's right.
Barely hold the one ornament.
Right. And I mean, those kind of things were just really, really special, and were to me growing up and to my kids, and we still, even now with the grandkids. In fact, I had the grandkids with us this past weekend. And I have Addie, who's 8, and Emmy's, who's 5. And they were in the back seat of my car. We were driving, and they were talking nonstop about Christmas. And I was so excited about it. And they both go to the same school. Emmy's in kindergarten, and Addie's in 2nd grade. And she was saying that they had a Grinch in their classroom that if you touched him, he would disappear. And so you couldn't touch him. And so Emmy was telling all this story, and I said, oh, wow. So I was asking her questions about it. I'm always interested in their thought process. And Addie all of a sudden pipes up and she goes, he won't disappear. And that was a funny conversation, just listening to him, because Emmy was adamant, no, he will disappear. And Addie's like, have you touched him to know? No, because he would disappear. And so it's this whole conversation about it. And then he's like, well, we have a Grinch in our classroom, and he doesn't disappear. And then she kind of stopped for a minute, and she thought, and she said, I think our classrooms are just different. That was kind of her way of reconciling these differences. And I'm wondering, when the conversation goes about the existence of Santa Claus and those kind of things are going to be the conversation and that type of thing. And so it's just a special time of year. And I guess I think about this time, we're talking about it, as special as it is for me, and I know for you and your upbringing, and still is in our family, for a lot of people, this is a very difficult time. This season in America, Thanksgiving to Christmas is such a heightened time of year. Everything in it becomes heightened. So for us, having these wonderful experiences, cutting trees down, the snow and stuff like that, is a heightened positive experience. But for many people, there's been negative experiences that happen within this context, and those get heightened as well, and they become heightened, negative, painful experiences. And so, this time of year becomes traumatic. This time of year becomes heartache. This kind of year becomes something I'd like to just get through and get past and avoid and ignore and those kind of things. And that very much is one of the things we have to be very aware of when we deal with the community of addiction, who have suffered greatly, and not just addiction, but generally speaking, a lot of areas of life, because their addictive responses have come because of a lot of trauma in their lives. A lot of times, there's a lot of treatment for PTSD and that kind of stuff, because there's just a lot of trauma in the lives of a lot of addicts that we have to be very aware of. Yeah,
and I know growing up, I was aware of people who it was a difficult time of year because they had recently lost a loved one, or some other event that happened around the time. But you're really speaking something a little bit deeper than that.
Right. For a lot of addicts, they come from dysfunctional families, for instance, and so Christmas was a time of chaos, and they didn't have the Christmas experiences. They had a lot of maybe mom and dad were fighting, and the family wasn't together, and it was this. The society had this expectation of something, so they carried the expectation, but then they never found it met, and it was always a disappointment and pain and those kinds of things.
You come back to school in January and you have to write the essay on what happened at Christmas, or what did you get at Christmas, and just further laying that burden that's not the Christmas experience I'm having, that my kids are having.
And so that becomes a real difficult time for an addict, and when you're in recovery, a lot of times the way you handle that pain, is you drink and use during these times. And of course, partying becomes a part of this experience. And for an addict, one of the struggles they have is they can't just turn off the party on Christmas Eve or turn on the party on certain times, but then it's a party then that keeps going and they can't stop it. And so then they have the destruction and the negativity and all those things because of their addictive tendencies that continue to reel, and that those then become painful experiences for the whole family.
Yeah, you just made me think of our recent graduation, and one of our graduates giving a testimony said, he was doing pretty well, except he started to drink a little. And so around a party or whatever. And then he said, of course, for me, I can't just drink a little. So even that kind of trigger brings him back into the heart of his addiction instead of being able to overcome that.
And so for many, this is a painful time regarding the guys that we're trying to work with, because it's a heightened time. It's a time in which they have suffered in many ways in their family and their dysfunction, and all of a sudden having to come back together with this family. Because in general, we can kind of have a dysfunctional family. We can kind of separate from that family, kind of go about our business. But Christmas is always the time, the family's trying to get back together again. We're supposed to get back. And so then we got to reunite with this with this negative, painful kind of experience. And so in a lot of cases then, because they've reacted negatively to that, they've used drugs, and then they've missed Christmases, and if they're into the point where they're older now and they have children, they have failed their kids at times. It's a painful time because they haven't been there for 2 or 3 Christmases with their kids growing up. So they've let them down. And so now there's embarrassment and shame and all those things associated with this heightened time of year as well. So I think in recovery then, and in helping guys in this time, there's some really important things we need to be aware of as we deal with this. This is not going to be happy-go-lucky, rah-rah, Santa Claus type of thing for everybody.
Can you remember kind of the evolution of how Christmas and holiday times was handled here on campus? Because for those that our listeners don't know, that when a resident comes, the first 30 days, they can't get a pass, and there's limited passes after that. So all year round, and particularly the holidays, and we have guys here, they're celebrating Christmas here. Can you think back to how that kind of evolved? My guess is you didn't start in 2007 thinking about all these things and realizing this was a special thing that needed consideration.
Right, yeah. My first thought was, hey, this is a positive time of year. We want to help everyone have a good time.
Loves Christmas.
Right. And found out quickly that wasn't the case. And then, so how do you deal with that? And a couple things I think become important. One, I think we want to help them redeem Christmas too. Part of the recovery is recovering positive experiences. And so how do you help them maybe learn new traditions and gain new ways of handling these things and enjoying positive things? So one of the things, like you said, the guys are limited sometimes and they can't even be with family. And so making this place still a special place where they can have fond memories and have positive experiences. Not that they're not gathering with their family, but they kind of have this new family and stuff. And so, for instance, we always have a wonderful Thanksgiving meal. It's like huge spread and stuff, and our staff does a great job of making that a special time. We always have, usually a group comes out sometime during Christmas and has a special Christmas party and gives gifts to all the guys. We'll have our own residential Christmas party and do some things in-house to kind of make the experience positive and help rebuild some positivity. But one of the things I was thinking about, how do you help the guys deal with this, is a lot of times what also happens during Christmas, one of the things we like about it, and one of the things I liked about it as a kid, is we got off of school. And you got out of school for Christmas, right? And that was always good. I remember counting down the days, particularly. I always look forward to summer vacation, obviously, as the longer break from school. But boy, every day I could count down closer to Christmas, and getting out of school and all those kind of things was always an exciting time.
Was fall break a thing when we were kids? I don't remember that. Yeah, the kids have it easy now. They get started in like 6 weeks, 8 weeks later. They're out for a week all of a sudden. But yeah, it was a countdown to when can we have this longer break at the end of the fall.
And so, and so we look forward to those breaks. I know, a lot of people with work, you get a lot of vacation time during that time. You get certain holidays off and that kind of thing. But one of the things that's critical for addicts is being able to maintain structure. So breaking from structure can be difficult. I mean, all of a sudden, if recovery meetings aren't meeting because of the holidays, it's not so easy to, just take off during the holidays. A lot of churches, their small groups will take a break during the holidays kind of thing. And this is a critical time in which structure becomes important to maintain. Going to my 12-step meetings, going to my church meetings, going to my recovery things and my program things. So one of the things we really try to maintain is we don't let up on the structure. We might insert a special occasion, but we don't just say, hey, we're taking a break from all this. And so I think it's really important to maintain that structure because there's a security in it. There's that's how they've kind of, the structure is kind of how they've linked and connected their recovery, and kind of maintaining that. It's important to maintain the structure. And so I think it's really important for us to not forget during this time of year.
And I've noticed that whenever we do set aside a little bit, maybe classes aren't going to meet today because it's, Christmas Eve or whatever, it's still not retreat to your room and, isolate. And it's something else is coming together and being around, watching the bowl game on TV or whatever it may be, because there's a lot of healthy interaction that happens there. And I've noticed we're always thinking about, how is the house functioning together, getting together, and being together, even if we've slightly changed the schedule for that day?
And I mean, it is a dangerous time. I mean, generally speaking, during this time, guys do get passes and go home for Christmas, and it's like I said, it's not always a positive experience. So helping people recover from that afterwards is important. Kind of having the opportunity to debrief them after those experiences sometimes. And some guys have great experiences and it's fun and that kind of thing. But Unfortunately, we can lose some guys during this time of year because of relapses and those kind of things, because they fall back through these times of tension and stress. So we try to help prepare them for it, because one of the things that we often remind people of is that while you're working to change, everything out there is staying the same. So you can't, go back to your family, who's generally probably sees nothing that needs to be changed, nor has done anything to change anything, and expect that to be changed. You have to change enough that you can handle the way they are differently than you have in the past. And those are challenging things at these times of year.
And also the family and friends who don't know how much maybe the resident has changed in the months they've been here. And we see dramatic changes, and yet they haven't had a lot of interaction with those people. And all of a sudden, here I am for a weekend around Christmas. And I don't know, I can see that being a lot of stress and being assumed you're the same person who's going to act out the same way or whatever it may be. And wanting desperately to mend things that aren't really, time hasn't given that opportunity yet.
Right. And even, you get into, we adjust the schedule a little bit for Christmas, obviously, because it passes and that kind of thing. And then we get to New Year's. Obviously, there's not much associated with New Year's except partying, and maybe football games. And one of the things we recognize, because it's a party holiday in a sense, we try to actually do very little about that. We want to keep things looking the same and that kind of thing. And then we're just kind of moving right in to the new year and not making a big deal about that. We tried to at first had a typical, we're going to have a New Year's Eve party and that kind of stuff, and quickly realized there's nothing positive associated with that at all. And so just better, let's just kind of blow through that and continue to keep our normal structure and that type of thing during this time. So I would just really encourage people to remember that, while you and I have had positive experiences, not everybody has. And, we may enjoy breaks and we may enjoy time with family, but that's not everybody's experience. And so being sensitive to that, being aware of that, knowing how to support people in those times and to keep our structures that help support people in recovery is an important thing to maintain during this time of year.
Like I said, the pendulum swings a lot farther either way this time of year, and being aware of that. And I remember something you said many years ago in the context of really of churches and trying to do planning for things that were going on. And you said, we're turning into very much an event-based culture where we're just looking for that next big event, that next vacation in our lives, or that next retreat that the men are going to take of the congregation. And, that may be 3 months off. And it's like, well, what about the intervening? And obviously we're in this time of a big event. This is our big event of the year. And it does make me think, what about first week of January, however your pendulums, swings, and even talking those to us that, love this time of year, the rest of the year is really, kind of exposes, who we are. We can all enjoy this moment, go on this great vacation, have this great time, have this great event at church. But what about the next day and the next day? And one thing I love about this program, we've talked about it at length here on the podcast, is it seems to me the thing that really carries us through is our identity and our purpose. And, I always think back now to page 1 of the Bible, and first thing we learn about humans is made in the image of God, identity, and here to have rule and dominion over God's creation. We have purpose. And I know that's what we strive to restore. And so my prayer for our guys is that whatever the highs and lows of the season are, that's being established in them. And so, the continuing living and working in recovery is really what's going to be possible, is through that understanding.
Right. And I think, as we go through these difficult seasons, being with them through those seasons is really important. A lot of times I think it's our tendency to just feel badly that they have a bad experience, and then we want to go fix it somehow or make it different, instead of just journeying with them and help them heal through those things. And, there's no magic pill, there's no magic answer. There's not like a little quote that's going to make it all go away, or even a Bible study that's going to just, change that whole thing. It's going to be about lovingly journeying with people through those things and supporting them through their hard times. And that's part of that structure. Again, keeping those relationships, keeping connection with those people who go through those hard times. I have a guy who I meet with every Monday. And there's been times last couple of weeks, my schedule changed for a couple of weeks where we didn't meet, and he was quickly saying, "Hey, don't forget me. That's what I count on. It's kind of the fueling for my week and that kind of thing." And it's easy to kind of let these schedule changes, stuff like that, cause us to lose touch with people who are really leaning on those structures to keep them focused, fueled, and energized for handling the challenges that are coming their way. So I think just be aware of people during this time, be attentive to them, and
help them build their own community.
Right.
And we, as you're a part of it, and I know that's something we're striving to do with some upcoming program changes, is to focus even more on that part of it, because we all need it, and maybe even more so for those that are in recovery, that extra connection that maybe we take for granted.
Right.
And it's super important. And so I appreciate that that's also becoming even a greater focus. I mean, you can always kind of get a read on the house by the way the guys are interacting, and you can tell that that's such a positive experience. And for often guys that are complete strangers when they walk in the door, and you can see how important it is to have that community and just this love and walking through this together. And we know that's what is obviously needed for continuing recovery as they move on with their lives in different ways. And so hopefully those of our listeners who are working with and have friends and family who are in addiction can even maybe double down on making even more connection. And I think of the old adage, 80% of success is just showing up.
Right.
And that's really true in this area. Even if we don't know what to do, just being with people, it's usually what carries the day.
That's right.
All right. Well, happy holidays. I think we can, inject a little bit of levity at this time of year in a difficult situation, but for our guys and build those positive experiences going forward. And being aware of it is, I guess, the first step, that they have special hardships maybe in their lives. Their needs. All right. Well, thanks, Tom, for sitting down and chatting.
Yeah. Merry Christmas.
Yeah. And if you would like to connect with us, please visit our website at hiswayinc.org.